Welcome to the Pulse of Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and we are here at Maxwell Place Park in beautiful Hoboken, New Jersey. And why not? We have a 70-degree day. Let's take the show outside from the studio. We want to thank you for joining us for your one-stop shop for sports picks, politics and government chatter, and even some neighborhood restaurant reviews. Instead of going to 3 different channels, you can come here every week for the Pulse on everything you need to know. And why don't we begin with our Picks with Peter B segment, as we have a new debut on the show today, and that's Mr. Brad Chen, formerly a fan interference co-host at WDOM.
Woo!
Exactly, plugging it along. Brad, what's going on, my man?
It's great to be here, Pete. What is it, 75 degrees out in April here? It's beautiful. Got the river in the background. Happy to be talking some sports with you.
And I'm happy to have you. We
Thanks.
are happy to have you all the way from Rhode Island, folks, WDOM. So we're really, really excited.
Yep.
So Brad, we're going to do something on the show that we've never done before in our pick segment, and that's actually talk about the NBA. And
do it.
why not? We have
Exciting.
the playoffs starting yesterday with a couple of matchups. We got the rest of the game ones going on today.
Yep.
And why don't we start with a local team actually making the playoffs? Can you believe it? And we know it's not those New York Knicks.
Yeah.
So the Brooklyn Nets are in,
Yep.
taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. And what's interesting about this is 2 short seasons ago, Brad,
Yep.
both of these teams had the worst records in the NBA. I mean, they were fighting for a great draft pick, right or wrong.
Yep.
Who do you like in this series to move on?
Well, it's amazing. 2 years ago, you're right. These teams were bottom of the barrel. Went 2 different ways about having to rebuild. The Sixers would tank, whereas the Nets didn't really have the ability to. They had no other picks out there. They gave up all their picks to Boston Celtics over the last 3 or 4 years. So they're really dealing with scraps. And the way they rebuilt was pulling people like Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, building this really strong core of young team and players. And D'Angelo Russell, the way he fell into the lap, unbelievable. Turning around, really becoming leader of that team. All-star year this year. And, honestly, I feel like they're one more All-Star, one more All-NBA player away from really taking that next step. So
Unbelievable.
let's talk about the matchup.
Let's talk about the matchup. Is right. So it's a 3-6 matchup.
Yep.
There were portions of the season where people didn't actually think the Nets would actually even make the playoffs, but they're in, and they're the number 6 seed. Of course, the teams under them are kind of 500 teams, which we'll get to.
Yep.
I mean, do they have a shot in this series?
Call me a homer because I am a Brooklyn Nets fan. I will say it
I
right
like
now.
it. I like it.
Been a part of that journey since New Jersey. Knew they're moving over to Brooklyn, so I wanted to be on that train early. I want to make that known. However, this is going to be a tough matchup. However, they are dealing with house money here. No one's really expecting them to move on in these playoffs. Everyone thought if they made the big dance for the NBA, pretty much the playoffs, that would be considered a really good season. So to go 42-40. And to be even considered, a little bit of an underdog here. Joel Embiid's health is in question as well. There's no doubt that they have a better chance with this team versus the Sixers instead of, say, the Bucks or the Raptors. They split the series 2-2 this regular season. So I think there's definitely a fighting chance, especially if they steal one game in Philly. You get one of those 2 down there in Philly and you bring back the momentum to the Barclays. I think it's a really exciting time.
So your heart is telling you the Nets, but what is your mind telling you?
I will not root them off. I will not write them off. However, I do see this going about 6 games. So, if you're a betting man out there, 76ers, but I think it is going to go at least 6 games.
And 76ers. Got it.
Got
Okay.
76ers.
So now we have a 1 versus 8 matchup that really playoff purists would absolutely love, because you have the Milwaukee Bucks, who were, of course, not only the best team in the East, but probably the best team they were the best team in the NBA this year by far.
Yeah.
I mean, taking on a Detroit Piston team who finished the season 500. I mean, I was there at the last game against the Knicks where they needed to win that game.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, well, let me tell you, the Knicks are so bad. I'm sorry, the Pistons weren't much better either in that game.
No, they're not. No.
So, do you think this is going to be a pretty quick series for the Bucks?
I do, Pete. I think this is going to go, 4 games. This could be a sweep pretty quickly. If 5, with a team that's coming in the 8th seed, you're just kind of happy to be there. They were somewhere in between. Like you said, they came in kind of clawing at that last spot. They could have even been more of a tanking team mid-season. They could have worked, for a better pick. Instead, they're the 8th seed. So give them a shot, but I think the Bucks are so good. They've been resting Giannis, the Greek Freak. I think this is going to be his playoffs.
Greek Freak, I love it.
It's going to be his playoffs. Expect some ridiculous dunks. He's such an athlete out there. But I see this going 5 games. The Pistons should be thrilled that they made it. but they're a year or two away.
They are a year or two
you know,
away.
whereas-
And that's what I did notice, that on their roster, they certainly had a lot of youth.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's going to be a great experience, but they're going against the best team in the league. like
Exactly.
you
You take that experience, but this is the time for Milwaukee right now. This team is so strong and it's built. And what do they had? 60 wins, I think.
60
I mean,
wins is
they
right,
definitely
yeah.
had the most in the NBA, so it's really impressive.
It's
And they're rested.
Yeah,
and they're rested.
Exactly. So the next matchup is very, very interesting, and it's a 2 versus 7 matchup. But
Yeah.
the Orlando Magic, who
Yeah.
of course is the 7 seed team,
Yes.
they've gone 22-9 since January 31st.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things that if you're the Toronto Raptors, who have been consistently in the playoffs, I think, what was it, 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, they were knocked out in the first round,
Right.
and a year after they were knocked out in the first round. Then 3 years ago, it was the second round, and they even made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and were knocked out.
Yep.
I mean, this has got to be your make or break year. And to the point where, and I know it's getting sunny, I'm glad you
Yeah,
put on
put 'em
the,
on
put on the shades there. You know, but then again, you're going against a buzzsaw coming in, a team who's been red hot,
Yeah.
absolutely red hot. I mean, do you think that this has 7 games written all over it, where, you know, the Magic just might stay as hot as they can be right now?
You're right, Pete. The Magic have a little bit of magic going on right now. You had that great stat earlier. I know.
There he
the
goes
last-
with the one-liner, folks.
I noticed in the last 10 games, they're 8-2, so they're coming in at the right time. I think that was great for them to get that 7 seed and not the 8, so they don't have to play the Bucks.
Yes.
And you're right, there's a little bit of that fear factor still in Toronto. It's, hey, we're always at the top of the standings. You know, we got home court advantage, and then we fall flat. Now they're facing, you know, the LeBron Jameses out there, so give them a little bit of a pass there. But it's a different team. You got Kawhi Leonard bringing in a little bit of veteran presence. You know, he's won an NBA title before. Marc Gasol coming in just adds a little bit more depth for the big men. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, I'd be very, very surprised if Toronto doesn't escape. Now, I think there's a little fear factor, like I said earlier, but you know, this is going to be a 6-game series in my mind. You know, the Magic get 1 or 2, you can push the series to 6.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now we have the 4-5 matchup, which is really the overachievers versus the underachievers.
Sure.
You have the Celtics in a number 4 spot, where they've been healthy, relatively healthy all season, and really now they've underachieved. I mean, they were probably the preseason favorite to win the East. Would
Definitely.
you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, they're going against a Pacers team who's going to be a tough out.
Yeah.
I mean, they play with a lot of heart.
They do.
Play with a lot of grit. I mean, it's one of those matchups that I would be frightened of if I was a Boston Celtic player or fan. What do you think of this matchup?
Could you imagine if the Pacers still had Victor Oladipo? I mean, it was so sad to see him, you know, out with a knee injury for the season, because this team would be very, very scary to face.
Right.
You know, they got a strong bench. They play incredible defense, team defense like we used to see back in the 90s, you know, with the Knicks, Pacers, Heat, the Bulls, you know, really playing those low-scoring games, playing it tight, playing it, you know, playing that defensive 5 men up every time. But I do think you're right. You know, you have the Celtics coming in. I do like Brad Stevens a lot. I liked him when he was a Butler in college. I think he's got a really good core of young talent here. And really, you can just kind of wipe away the slate once you get to the playoffs. Yeah, they underachieved. They came in the 4 seed. They probably should have been a 1 or 2 on paper. But you kind of get a clean slate. They still have home court advantage in the first one, and I think they're going to take advantage of that.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Brad Chen, former co-host of Fan Interference at WDOM in Rhode Island, giving us his insights on the Eastern Conference races in the NBA. We wish we had more time to talk about the West, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. Brad, thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pete.
I mean, just giving your insights. It's something that the show has been missing, and I'm sure the audience is going to appreciate it as much as I do. Folks, when we come back, we're going to have Josh Sotomayor Einstein here at Maxwell Pier Place, or Park, whatever you want to call it. We'll be right back with our Politics with Peter B segment. Stay tuned, everyone. Peter Biancamano from the Pulse with Peter B. We just want to remind you that on Monday, April the 15th, we have the great debate at Willie McBride's on 6th and Grand Street, 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it, as our political analyst, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, is going to be debating a longtime Hoboken resident in Dr. Anthony Petrosino. That is Monday, April 15th, 7 p.m., Willie McBride's, 6th and Grand Street. Be there. Welcome back to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and this is our Politics with Peter B segment. And I would be remiss if I didn't remind the audience that tomorrow night at Willie McBride's, 6th and Grand Street in Hoboken, you are invited. We have the great debate, left versus right between our own political analyst, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, and Dr. Anthony Petrosino. We want you to come, we want you to ask questions, and of course, we want you to just have a good time. It will be moderated by yours truly, and I will get to every single one of your questions, I promise. But we have business to take care of first on this week's show, and we have the aforementioned Mr. Josh Sotomayor Einstein here at beautiful Maxwell Place Park. Josh, what's going on, my man?
It's a beautiful day, beautiful people, beautiful weather, no complaints. Tomorrow night's debate is going to be amazing. I'm sure our viewership has realized that I am going to be representing the right in the left versus right great debate, and it's going to be a great time.
Well, and we look forward to it, and of course that means Dr. Anthony Petrosino will be representing the left. It should be fireworks, folks. You're not going to want to miss it. Get over to Willie McBride's. All right, but first, we have a topic at hand here, Josh. And you hear this so often in Hoboken and a lot of other Hudson County municipalities, and that is that the streets are filthy, whether litter, garbage residue, animal feces, whatever you want. They're on the streets and they're everywhere. It's just everywhere. We notice on Washington Street that there are garbage cans on pretty much every corner, as well as recyclables. Although the main avenue could always be cleaner, they do have those city workers who push trash cans around trying to clean up. But I really think the root of the problem is on these side streets and toward off the main drag, we'll just say. Do you think that dirty streets is really a city problem, or can residents be more conscientious on cleaning up after themselves?
So I think it's a false dichotomy. Obviously, both things can be done at once. But I think
or
really,
both. Sorry, I forgot that.
So now it's no longer a false dichotomy. But I think really what we have here is an example of an issue that's actually something that city government's supposed to do, but instead of actually trying to address that issue and make our town cleaner, realizing that we do live in an urban area, we do live in a city. It's never going to be, as clean as someplace with more space and less people, but it can be cleaner. Instead of prioritizing that, many people in different layers of government and our city government prioritize things that signal, virtue signal to their base that they're with them on other issues, which aren't really germane to the quality of life. And there's simple solutions. You brought up the DPW guys. They're good people and they work hard, but there's just an overwhelming amount of trash that's generated by roughly 55,000 people in our slightly larger than a square mile town. So obviously I think streets that aren't that don't currently have a garbage can, like off Washington, not all streets have a garbage can on the corners. That's something that'd be worthwhile of our tax dollars to be spent on, instead of all the things that the city is spending on that are really just, some of them are beautification projects, and some things they just flush our money down the drain for no reason. But that's something that the city actually needs. And on Washington Street, you have a situation where there's no large garbage containers on the corners, like massive large ones like they have in across the river in New York City. So people just throw out their trash in bags, and when there's a particularly windy night, all the bags gets ripped, and it looked like everybody's garbage just threw up all over the place, and it looks disgusting. And it's too much for the DPW guys to handle, not because they're not good at their job, they are, and they do their job and they work hard, but because there's so much trash.
But let me ask you a question. So overall maintenance of public areas in this town could mean many different things in any town. If you look, for example, parks, let's just say, although an inconsiderate person can actually litter, it happens all the time in public parks. What about landscaping and park equipment? How many times have we heard during the summer, especially like the sprinklers are not working? Can the city do better with these type of things?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're always going to find inefficient management, in any sort of organization, whether it's taxpayer supported or voluntary through a client using something that a business will provide. There's always going to be inefficiencies which can be tweaked. And we, the citizens and the taxpayers, have to have a keen eye for that sort of inefficiencies, because at the end of the day, it's our dollars. But I think the greater abdication of responsibility is coming to out, not in the parks, but in the streets itself, with the amount of trash that is everywhere, and is an actual requirement of government to handle, and which our government has abdicated.
So a conversation that I had many times when I was on the school board was having outside vendors come in to do city work.
Well, hold on.
And-
If I could just
Yeah,
interrupt
sure,
you for 1
sure.
second. I just want to give an example so that viewers understand what I mean by abdicating responsibility and juxtapose that to the virtue signaling politics that a lot of people in City Hall pursue. National Public Radio just came out with a podcast where they interviewed an academic. And National Public Radio is not some right-wing conspiracy. It's fairly to the left. And the study that they discussed with the academic behind it was about how plastic bag bans actually increase the use of overall plastic, because people end up buying more garbage bags, which have a thicker plastic, and use those more
Right.
often, and actually ends up with more plastic in landfills. And this has been known for a while. There have been other studies. This was the first really, really big one. But you still have cities like Hoboken, which recently banned plastic bags because they pretend that it's going to do something positive when really it does nothing. It actually does negative. It has a net negative effect for the environment, and they're focused on that's virtue signaling because it sounds good.
But we spoke
It's-
about this when we spoke
it's a
about
distraction.
it on the
No,
show.
but this
Right.
is the priorities wise. Instead of
Right.
cleaning up Washington Street or finishing the Washington Street redevelopment or making more garbage cans, things that the city actually needs, they do these virtue signaling
I see
distraction
what
politics.
you're saying. It's the overall point, right? So going back to my question. So a conversation that came up many times when I was on the school board was having outside vendors come in to do work. And I always questioned that although it might be cheaper, because it's privatization, that's exactly what it is. It might be cheaper than having city workers do it. It could be detrimental in the long run. What are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, it really depends on what we're talking about. Many times there's short-term savings built into using essentially contract workers or contracting to a company for a short period of time. However, we've seen on the federal level in particular, and to a lesser degree on the state level, when you get addicted to that, it ends up costing more in the long run. So if it truly is a short project, then it makes fiscal sense and it's good for the taxpayer. But if it's going to become something that the political class is addicted to because they don't have to go through the usual channels to do it, then it's problematic.
Exactly. Okay, great. Now, if you look at other communities, because we have a few seconds here, in Hudson County, especially Union City, and we spoke about Union City and how great Union City Mayor Brian Stack, and of course the state senator representing Hoboken and Union City and parts of Jersey City as well, how great he maintains his streets, how pristine they are, and then the residents pay far less taxes to live there. What's up with that?
Well, it's a result of his political position as a state senator and as a mayor, and his place in the food chain of New Jersey politics makes sure that his city stays lower on the taxes and less on the economic burdens, because he'll make relationships with others or do others favors, and in return, his city will get more grant money.
And it certainly looks like that that he's getting all that grant money by the way the streets are always paved and very, very clean. Well, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, our political analyst every week here on the Pulse of Peter B. And folks, come out to Willie McBride's tomorrow night. See if Josh is going to be wearing his hat while debating. We'll see. And it's going to be a great time. Willie McBride's 6th and Grand Street for the great debate, left versus right. When we come back, our Places with Peter B segment. Stay tuned, everyone. Peter Biancamano from the Pulse of Peter B. We just want to remind you that on Monday, April the 15th, we have the great debate at Willie McBride's on 6th and Grand Street, 7 p.m. You're not going to want to miss it, as our political analyst, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, is going to be debating a longtime Hoboken resident in Dr. Anthony Petrosino. That is Monday, April 15th, 7 p.m., Willie McBride's 6th and Grand Street. Be there. Welcome back to the Pulse of Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano, and this is our Places with Peter B segment. And look who's back. We have Myrana of mygoodies.com, and she has decided to grace us with her presence. We missed you. How's it going?
I'm so happy to be back. It was a long, busy month, but I'm happy to be here, and today's beautiful, so I couldn't be happier.
Right here at Maxwell Place Park. I
Yeah.
mean, why not do the show with the beautiful, of course, New York skyline behind
Yeah.
us? So, today we are going to be discussing Porta restaurant, which is located at 135 Newark Avenue in Jersey City. We've been doing a lot of Hoboken places, Mai, so I'm really, really excited that we have a nice place in Jersey City to talk about. And why don't we first talk about the location of Porta?
Yeah.
Because, which by the way, means door
Yeah.
in Italian. See,
Yes.
I mean, you know, because I guess they have just an open door policy for anybody that wants to come in, right? Well,
Yeah.
it's a restaurant; they better have that.
Yep.
It's downtown, about a block away from the Grove Street Pat Station in the pedestrian mall down there. You can't get any better than that location, correct?
That is like the prime location of where any restaurant would want to be in Jersey City. So they are in the perfect location where everyone gets off the path, and then also close enough for people from the city to go visit and discover Jersey City.
That's awesome. And discovering Jersey City, you should, because that area is hopping down there. I mean,
Apparently it is.
it's
yeah.
like in the years ago, not so much, but now, Mai, correct?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the ambience of the
Yeah.
place, because you know we love to talk about it. It's located in a former pharmacy. And on the website, it says you can't miss it since they have the pharmacy sign still out, but still outside. But when you look at the inside, it looks very industrial, almost like a beer garden type of place. It's like, my God, there's a pharmacy in there? I mean, would you agree?
When I think of pharmacy, I think of like a Walgreens. So I want to know what kind of, medicine or whatever was in production there, because this place is huge, right? When you walk in, it's 3 floors.
That's what I
It's
heard.
got dining area, it's got 2 full bars, and it's got a rooftop. So this pharmacy was probably they were probably billionaires, these owners, right?
Right.
So,
It's like you wonder what type of pills they were serving in there.
But I mean, after the renovation and all of that, they did a beautiful job because it's open space. Have you ever been to the one in Asbury Park?
I have, actually.
Okay,
I didn't
okay.
want to say it because I
All right.
usually make you do the
Yeah.
reviewing, but the one in Asbury Park is sweet.
It
really
is really nice, right by the beach, open
Yeah,
space.
it's awesome.
It mirrors what their original location was down in South Jersey, but it has that very urban, flair. Same setup, open kitchens where you can smell the aroma of the pizza and anything cooking in the kitchen, but still very family-like. They've got communal tables, they have their bar stools, and they just, I don't know, it's just really beautiful. Nice ambiance, dim light.
Unbelievable. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Rooftop terrace too, correct?
Oh, the best.
The best,
The
huh?
best.
Yeah, you're right at Grove Street downtown. I'm sure you have some scenic views of New York down there. And that place is probably hopping today.
Yeah.
Would you say?
I mean, if we have time, I'll probably head there after.
That's what I
after
like to
this.
hear. You see? She's
Yeah.
not one of those reviewers where she comes and talks about a place she's never been to. She goes to the places. Well, all our reviewers do. I'm not going to say that they don't. So let's talk about their menu, because
Yeah.
that's what we love absolutely talking about here on The Pulse. And let's start with their dinner menu first, because, that's when people mainly go, is at dinner time. You have some pizzas. You have some pastas, you have some protein dishes, or as I like to say from their menu, proteine.
Oh, I was hoping that you were going to be the one to pronounce these, because I didn't want to butcher any of them.
There you go.
Because of how it's in Italian and whatnot.
Exactly, but then you have some apps and salads.
Yeah.
What do you like?
For me, I love how it's kind of broken down. They have something for everybody type of menu, right? So for me, I like to start out with the grilled cheese, which is fresh mozz with San Marzano tomato sauce,
Oh.
sandwiched between a brioche bun,
Oh.
and you kind of have that start with some carbs. You have a
So
glass
it's like
of
grilled
wine.
cheese Italian way, correct?
Right, and it's delicious. If anything, if I don't feel like having that, then I'll have some calamari. But for me, I go there for the pizza. I haven't got any of the branzino or the porterhouse, because it's a little more on the pricier side. I usually go there for a good time to drink. I'd rather spend my money on some
on the liquid,
on
folks.
some
On the
liquid.
liquid.
But the pizzas are where it's really at, right? You go there for the brick oven, you go there for the Neapolitan pizzas, right? They use San
Yeah.
Marzano tomatoes. I'll go there for the Italian stallion, which
The
is
Italian stallion. I was
it's
watching
funny.
Rocky this morning. So.
right. It's funny when I actually went there on Thursday to kind of do my research and development again, even though I've been there several times. When the server came and placed my Italian stallion on the table, the person sitting next to me started laughing, because I guess he kind of thought it was like a joke.
But that's,
He was like,
that's-
"Anyone order
So wait a
Italian
minute,
stallion?"
But they also, because you spoke about the drinks, and
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
me,
yeah.
I'm all about the liquid menu. The brunch menu. I thought the brunch menu was very, very interesting, because half of it to me was devoted to cocktails, correct?
Yes. So they are known for like their $10 carafes of mimosas, and who doesn't want a mimosa during brunch time, right?
Right.
They don't necessarily have the unlimited brunch because that can get a little crazy. That's not
Exactly.
really their atmosphere. You go to the city for that.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, they have these reasonably priced mimosas and drinks, and like their full bar has literally anything that you could possibly want,
It's
even
unbelievable.
from a regular Stella to a strawberry beer.
But they also have a drink menu, I did
Yes.
notice, you know, with their fine, I guess, house
Mm-hmm.
cocktails. I don't know if you ever indulged in any of those.
I'll usually go for their beer, or
like
I'll go
that.
for, you know, just like my typical whiskey.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Her typical, folks. If you know my Rana, she likes her whiskey. So now, you know, during brunch, they do have most of their dishes. Do they really turn their dishes? Because I know a lot of different places do this.
Into like breakfast.
Into like breakfast by throwing like a couple of eggs on there. Are they kind of unique? What would you say?
I've only had their brunch once with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
We've had, I think it was like the French toast or like some sort of waffle dish, but I did have like the pork chops. But I mean, from what I saw, it was very like breakfast oriented. Had their eggs, you know, they had just a nice selection of breakfast, eggs, typical, you know, bacon and all of that.
That's awesome. And then, of course, they do have a lunch menu where they have their combos of sandwiches. So there's a lot of offices around there. You can go there
Yeah.
and have a quick lunch. And then, of course, their dessert menu just looks absolutely delectable. I mean, my goodness.
I don't usually go for dessert because Tarico's is right around the corner.
Ah,
But
I like
I saw that they do some gelatos and they have some like Nutella pizzas. So-
Yeah, what's better than that? I mean, Nutella and pizza put together. Anyway, so I have a question for you. So is this really a date spot, or do you believe it's more suitable for families, or it could be both, obviously, because it is very pizza-centric, and kids love pizza, obviously.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I also noticed on their site that they had pictures of DJs. Does this kind of turn into a club on a Friday and Saturday night? Then
I feel like, honestly, when I think of Porta, I think of food, family, friends, and just a good time, right?
Nice.
So depending on what time of the day or what day you're going, it could be suitable for any of that. Right, they
Interesting.
do have nightlife, and according to GQ and Village Voice, they've been mentioned as like a must-try spot in Jersey City. So they definitely live up to their reputation.
Well, now it's also mentioned on the Pulse of Peter B, because
Now
that's going to be
Pulse.
right up there, correct?
Yes, yes.
Well, under my Rana's watch. So their hours: Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to midnight. Friday, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. Saturday, 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. It's like, might as well not just go to sleep on
Right,
Friday. And then Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Best time to go in there where you don't have to wait for a table.
I'd say Thursday.
Interesting.
Thursday.
Okay.
They have like an industry night. They also have happy hours, but it's probably the least busiest time, but also enough people to kind of not be awkwardly sitting in a huge hall with just you and the pizza.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, Porta's very, very unique and seems like it's really just another pizzeria, but just with kind of like a hippier vibe. But what do you believe separates it from other neighborhood pizzerias in the area or in Hudson County in general?
I think that the fact that they have like a lot to offer other than food and just drinks. You know, you go there for entertainment, you can actually host a party there. And I saw on their website coming this month, they're having some sort of comedian, you know, coming in there. So it's almost like an entertainment spot, one stop for everything.
One-stop shop, kind of like the Pulse, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's your one-stop shop for everything. Well, my Rana of mygoodies.com, that's MAI goodies.com. Go on our website. We all know you missed her for about a month here on the Post, but she's consistently updating the website and her Instagram and all that. Good stuff, as I like to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you back anytime soon. Folks, don't forget, tomorrow night, the great debate, left versus right, Willie McBride's. We'll see you there, and join us next week for another edition of The Pulse with Peter B. Have a great week, everyone. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest from The Pulse with the Peter B. Folks, don't forget to like us on Facebook. Go on Facebook, search for The Pulse with Peter B. Like us, follow us. We're always updating information on there. And also, we have a brand new YouTube channel that you should go on and subscribe. See all of our past episodes. Like, follow us there. And don't forget, we will be back for The Pulse on everything you need to know.